Matt, I just started the recording if you
Yeah.
want to repeat any of them.
Yeah, I'll repeat it. So this presentation is one that I've given multiple times. I did it at, I think, both HDI conferences, Pink, and then I tried to do a small version of it at SITS, but of course we couldn't do the workshop portion because that show is crazy. And if you want to download the slides and all the speakers notes, so it has all of my notes in it, so you you can read exactly what I'm talking about, and it tells you the whole story. And if you want me to run a little mini workshop in your organization or really at any event, I love doing this stuff. It's so much fun. And the presentation goes through a project, an HR portal that I built for a huge retail group here in the US. They're, I think, 40,000, 28,000 employees, $14 billion. They're one of the largest. They own Home Shopping Network. They own Zulily. It's a conglomerate of brands. And this was the existing portal, and it doesn't suck because it's got search on it. And it's got, those are actually their employees. So obviously they really care about their people. But how often do we go to a portal and we want to explore resources? Not often. Why do we have to put helpful links up at the top? We don't have to put helpful links up at the top of that list. We know that it's a list of links. They're colored words. We know to click on that stuff. And so the idea was that we were starting with nothing. We were stuck with this portal that we didn't really like, but we didn't know what we wanted to build, or they didn't, and that's why they consulted with us. And so we as consultants, we use this. This is the life cycle that I choose. You may hear Katrina McDermott talking about the double diamond framework. There are lots of different ways of viewing the design life cycle. I like this one because it's simple and it's a process. And this is kind of where personas fit in, is in this life cycle. This is where you're going to find all the experience design tools and leverage them at different points of the journey. So it starts off with empathizing and understanding. That's really user research. It's voice of the customer. It's your survey data. It's the ticket data. It's literally everything that you can use to get to know your people better and what they're trying to accomplish, how they're trying to accomplish, how they're trying to work. And so that empathize and understanding, that really is where you're going to glean the information for your personas. So you're going to do all this research, and after you get to like 30 people that you've done interviews with, you will start to see patterns. You'll start to see the managers. In this case, I'll show you what you'll see, because I've got some of the personas here. And then in the second step, you're analyzing and defining. You're going through that user research, and you're reviewing it as an agile team. You're reviewing it as a project team. You're reviewing it as a department, as a company, so that you understand those people and how they're working, what their gaps and opportunities are. And then from there, you're building ideas. You're saying, okay, these are our people, these are their challenges. We agree and understand that these are the most important challenges. Now let's build some ideas. How might we address those gaps and needs? And those how might we's, the HMWs of design, is really where you're starting to brainstorm. You're starting to open up. You're doing in the double diamond framework, you're diversifying your thought. And then from that diversification of your thought, you can start to glean down to the specific ideas that you should be trying. And then you're putting it into place. You're saying, okay, in the case of this HR portal, we put in some ideas, we simulate what that portal is going to look like, we run users through some activities to see if that improves their experience and improves their does it close gaps, does it help them achieve opportunities? And then if it does, then you put it into production. And if it doesn't, you're going back to the beginning of the drawing board. You're saying, okay, that didn't work, how can we improve? Maybe you're trying a different idea that you had during the idea building phase, but the idea is that you choose to implement some of that stuff, and then eventually you're going to test, measure, and learn from that. So we always have this problem where IT departments don't want to do user research, And that's for a lot of reasons, mostly because we don't know about it much, or we're afraid of it, or it makes us sound like we don't understand the business, or that we're tone deaf, or that we're just mean. We think that we should know our users. We really should know them. And so sometimes there's this guilt complex that happens. We don't ask enough questions and live in the problems enough. We jump to conclusions. We're engineers. We love our solutions. So we went with this client, we decided to do the user research for free to just prove it to them that it's important. And here's what we came up with. People want a portal that's easy to use. See, I've got that in my notes here. Use a funny voice. This is not the kind of insight that you will get from user research. This is the actual response that Edith gave us. My team doesn't have computers, so we're not going to be able to use the portal. So you can see how user research is going to come up with these situations where you think, you know, someone's going to ask for a nice looking application, but in reality, they're more worried about getting paid than they are about nice looking applications. And you see these personalities and personas appear where people are saying, hey, I don't ask my team to put in self-service tickets with HR because that's what I do. I take care of their HR problems and make them happy. That's what I love about being a people manager. And after interviewing about 100 people at this company, I can tell you that a lot of the managers match Terry's persona. He's been there for 10 years. The reason that he's been there for 10 years is because he just makes stuff work, even though he's breaking process. He's telling, you know, instead of sending people to the HR portal, he's helping them out. And so whatever, we go through some roadblocks, we do some card sorting, et cetera, et cetera. Card sort's not important to the personas thing as much. But what I do put out here is that there is a way, once you get those personas, you can put them on your processes. So you can have your personas, you know, mapped out and say, okay, this is what this person wants. This is what this kind of person wants. Do I have an example of personas in here? I don't. So let me just search real quick.
It would be interesting to see how many different personas just from this group that we would or would not create.
So here's an interesting one. These are the personas that we use in our company. And so the idea is that you can bring this, once people start to fit into these categories, you can start to develop fake people that fit into these categories. So in this case, Eddie Adoba, you know, he's got 130 employees, kind of a small or a medium-sized IT operation, works for a small private company and makes custom furniture. As a result, Eddie is responsible for many tech, you know, small shops. You wear a lot of hats. Reporting directly to the owner of the company, Eddie knows that keeping systems stable is his number one goal. Otherwise, he will be forced to take calls, answer emails, as well as spend long hours fixing broken systems.
Oh, sorry, I'm not on mute.
That's great. I love it. But the thing is like some of this isn't that useful. And I've got another presentation where this is in here. Oh, it's visualizing.
Come on, Matt. Being unprepared with 1 minute warning. How dare you?
How dare I? How dare I? In my visualizing work presentation, I do an example. So here's a persona template. This one's from Miro. So if you're a Miro fan, highly recommend that you check out their persona template. But a lot of the stuff that we're tracking in personas in design, a lot of it comes from B2C companies, because those people that are selling, like Apple, who's selling directly to consumers, they need to know things like what was on this persona. They need to know things like, oh, this type of person really likes video games, music, and soccer. Okay, yeah, you might use that on a service desk, and you might say, you know, Eddie, you know, how is the soccer game? Eddie, what's a video game that you're playing? There might be a reason to reach out to Eddie and connect personally, but not all the time. And a lot of times you can trust your service desk agents to just get to know people, because a lot of them are extroverts and want to help people. But my point is that tracking that personal stuff isn't always as important as tracking what really matters to an IT department. So these things like introvert, extrovert, yes, it's helpful, but you might want to change that to be technical, non-technical. How technical are they? Am I sharing? Yeah, I'm sharing. Okay. Wants to talk, would rather email. So what you can see here is that there's really useful information that you could be leveraging around these personas that helps people understand, okay, do they go into the office daily? Are they fully remote? And what these personas, what they do for me, the most value that they provide to me is that when we are mapping processes, when we are building experiences, when we are doing service design as it should be done, we bring these personas to the table. We bring these personas to the forefront, and we say, all right, how would Sam Sales feel about this change that we're making to the onboarding process? How would Sam Sales, does Sam Sales care if we turn off personal hotspots on their iPhone plan? You damn right they do, because Sam works in sales. He's in the field. And you would know that if you had conducted user research with the sales team. If you had gone out to the field, watched the sales team doing their work, you would be able to empathize with them better. And so in the case where you're not able to go out to the field and you're not able to do the user research directly, which is a luxury, then you have these personas that you can depend on. And the design team has the ability to depend on those personas as well. And that's super useful because usually one of the next steps around building IT experiences is to do some sort of process mapping or experience mapping. This is a very simple journey map, but you can see how, like, job fair, application, interview, this is for an onboarding experience, offer letter, negotiation, offer accepted, etc. They're going through these steps. And what you can do is you can say, you can literally pull up that persona and say, okay, Sam Sales, what point is Sam Sales going to be mad about this? At what point is Sam Sales going to feel like this or this or this? And you'll have multiple customer journeys through this onboarding journey. And you would create, so I would, in this case, create like 6 slides. This first one would be Sam Sales. The second one would be Karen Finance. The third one would be Heidi IT. And the fourth one would be Adam the auditor. And you can track their feelings and thoughts literally on the map by using the user research that you got from those people. So you're able to put these personas into categories to say, at this point it's great, at this point it's not great. Okay. I think that that paints enough of a picture, right? Matt can stop talking, right? That was probably enough. What questions, what comments, what did I miss? Let's open up the floor now, since there are 17 of us. Go ahead and raise your hand. You can do it literally. You can raise your hand because we can see you on video. And then if you can't do that, there's a react button at the bottom. Don't click the drop down button, but instead click the actual heart, and there will be a raise hand option there. And as soon as you talk, it'll say, okay, do you want to lower your hand? So how did I do? Did I do personas justice? Did I do them good enough justice? Oh, Simon's clapping. All right. If Simon claps, it's true then, because Simon, he's particular. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll open it up at this point. Who is using personas? Is there someone who is using personas? Alex is shaking his head yes. Daniel raised his hand. Daniel, what you got, man?
So we are probably in the infancy stage of using personas, and we're actually tactically looking at personas for our images and our base builds of our computers. So that is one of the areas that we wanted to focus on first, because we have developers, so they would have a different type of laptop and machine that they would need and would have a total different experience. And then we have our customer facing folks. Then we kind of have the rest. So we're starting off small. We just have 3 personas that we've built, but we'll probably get more intimate with our personas as we kind of learn the ways to kind of make adjustments. So then the feedback that we get from each of those users is is top notch. His smiley face with star eyes.
Yes, great points. It's so close to role-based security that it's painful, right? We've been doing this for decades. You've got the marketing image and the sales image and the finance, and you image the computer based on who they are, or they get specific applications that go into the marketing AD group, and SCCM pushes out the right marketing tools, or Intune pushes out the right marketing tools. And I loved your point there too. Start small. You know, you don't need to cover everyone in your organization, but maybe there's one team that gets neglected a lot. Maybe it's the library, you know, the people that control the intellectual property of your company, and they store it and keep it. Having a persona for the forgotten people is a great way to start, because you just put them in the meeting, you put them in the room, you give them a seat at the table, and people start to learn, oh, there's more to this than I thought. There's more people involved in this than I thought. Great points, Daniel. Well done, sir. Simon, what you got on deck, man?
So yeah, I love the idea of the persona thing. You know what we do with our prioritization and scoping, because we understand where tickets come from. So we've already sort of like defined all of our departments, because like I say, an email problem is not an email problem, it's not an email problem, because everyone uses your services differently. So we have to understand what they mean. So we've done that. But we haven't actually created a persona to represent those departments. We have some basic metrics around those departments. Like, for instance, they don't all have computers. Our guys are out in the warehouse. If they have an issue, they can't just pull up a computer. They got to go drive on a forklift back, to a 310,000 square foot warehouse to get to a PC to do something. That's not going to work for them, right? So we have some of that, but I really loved what you had around, the different kind of questions you can use to describe how someone might interact with the experience that you've designed, right? So I think we're going to start doing that. I think I'm going to start naming all of my people now. I'm going to have to come up with cool names. So thank you for that. One other thing that we have sort of done is, you know, we don't force people to do anything like use the portal or anything like that. We throw it out there, we let it happen. But one of the things that I think we're a little bit different is we love workarounds. So, you create a portal and you say, everybody go to a self-service portal. And yet somehow everybody just calls Matt, or everyone picks the phone, they want to call Matt, right? And we all get frustrated. I feel like, why won't you use the portal, right? And if we continue down the road of wondering why they won't do that, um, it's our fault, right? If you look at all these, things like Kleenex, that was like I think it was like a makeup thing, but if they decided Kleenex will only be a makeup remover, right? We're never gonna market it to people blowing their nose or anything like that. Kleenex wouldn't be the brand that you name the dang tissues after, right? And there's various things where people use things. If you have a restaurant where you have a front door and an awning and a host stand, but every customer keeps walking in the side door, and you continue to feed everybody at the front door, you're going to go out of business. So what we do is we see workarounds as gold mines. Those are customers, like you want to call them customers. Those are customers giving your marketing information to you. They're telling you what they want. So instead of forcing everyone to the portal, just change Matt's number to the front end of the service desk, right? They all want to call Matt. Great. They love to call people. Great. Move the host stand to the side door. Greet the customers when they come in. Make a bunch of money selling your spaghetti, right? Don't force people. So one of the things that we like to do is we love to see workarounds, because we think they're gold mines of valuable information. They're people speaking to us and telling us what they want, right? So
good stuff. I think the big thing from that is, yeah, you got to use them. If you're not using them, not only do they fall out of date, but why are you building them in the first place? And the idea is that, especially with user research and voice of the customer programs, especially for scale, it's very nice to have people that are conducting the user research for you. They're going out and they're doing the research while stuff is on fire. While we're keeping our systems running, you've got this group of people that has the time and dedicated to talking to these people, and they get really good at user research. But ideally, in an ideal world, what happens is that those people stop doing the research and instead you send out app dev. You're sending out the people that are actually doing the work, that are building the systems, that are selecting what technology to do. They're going out and doing the research as well. It's expensive, but it gets them even closer to the truth of the matter. Personas are an archetype usually. It's the person in marketing who they're a bootstrapper. They started up their own web server and it's under their desk and they're running 3 websites off of it and it's creating tons of value for the company and tons of pipeline for sales. And that bootstrapper, that market bootstrapper, would be a great persona because they're kind of like your IT department distributed to marketing. And so knowing these personas gives you tons of power. It helps you realize who you need to leverage and when. Smojo, what you got to add here?
One of the things that we've often run, and this is from years back as well, so there's the sales persona thing, but what's really interesting when sales used to use them, when they would hand them over on a signed support contract afterwards, that there were things that they had forgotten to ask because they didn't actually look at the person from a support perspective. So we used to run a know your customers workshop sort of thing. And it really was, we'd say, okay, so I would say to someone, think about all the people in finance that you support, but I want you to think of the finance department as a person. You're standing in front of them, you're holding a cuppa of some kind, and you're ready to have a conversation with this finance person. Tell me about their personality. Like, tell me here, are they demanding or are they kind? Are they this? Are they, and then when they'd say, oh, they're really demanding, we'd say, well, how are they demanding? Is it the language they use? Is it more formal? Is it informal? So we actually do it more from that perspective. And in a way, and we used to do it as a storyline. So sales might interact with this person, but then hand them over through to, say, finance and invoicing and legal to get the contracts underway. And then they're handed over to support. So one of the things that is often forgotten in persona is that their persona shifts, the facets are shifting as they move through that journey. And those facets still exist as a whole person, but you want to it's like one of those diamonds, which face are we looking at that particular time? Not forgetting that all the other facets are actually sitting underneath and drive those decisions as well. So we would often then use, from story writing, we would use character profiling. You build your character profile as opposed to a persona. So it's a little more in depth, I guess, that, we know there's the different levels of personas, but too often those other facets aren't seen as part of that persona's journey.
Yes. Yeah, that is key because there's a difference between a customer journey and an ideal journey. And I think that's something that even designers get mixed up, that a customer journey is just one person's experience through an interaction. It's not necessarily the generic how everyone's going to experience it. How generic should a persona be? I love that question, John. And I love also that you pointed out Gemba walking, because this is kind of how you Gemba walk. If you can't go out to the field and see these people, how do you actually do it? I've got an example here too around the specificity of it. I just put a box over some branding stuff. So if you see a brand, ignore it. I don't work for them and I don't want them being promoted. So here's an example of something very generic: market intelligence, senior analyst role. And these are some of the things you might put on a persona. What are their needs, challenges, fears, and goals? And this is an actual one from an actual client. These are the things that, out of all these things, this is what the person says they need. But what's great is that down here you can see what goals they have that they don't realize. And so the idea is to kind of connect these two together. They want to feel prepared and informed, but they say that they need training for the CIQ application. So it's pretty clear that we should be developing great training for the CIQ application for this senior analyst. This was a financial firm. And so this one, although it's very generic, what you don't know is that it's actually a specific person. Kyle is the person that we interviewed for this, and these are the things that he gave us. That literally, this is what the research or the interview sounded like. And what a persona will do is it will generalize based on not a specific, what do I want to say, a rounded number of how many people fit into that role. So for example, if we're a financial firm and we have a lot of these analysts, I know that we've got 300 analysts in there, and maybe these needs, challenges, fears, and goals only apply to, let's say, a third of them or a quarter of them or even less maybe. The idea is that you would put that in here. You would say like, okay, this is 1/4 of our financial analysis team. And that way you can kind of start to understand, okay, do we give this persona more weight than this one? Do their needs outpace the other person's needs? Do they outrank the other person's needs? And it's a tough conversation to have, but oftentimes everyone agrees in the room. And that's what's beautiful about personas and the user design or the design process, is that you're not the referee. You're not deciding, oh, we should do this because this is good for the company. And we do this all the time in IT. Every time we're building a system or designing an interaction or designing an experience, we're saying we want this one to be the best way to do it instead of this other way. So we're deciding, as opposed to getting those people in the room and having them decide. Because that way, when that person in marketing who is complaining about, how they're handing off leads to sales, they'll come to the same conclusion. They're going to say, oh, this is better for the company. I'm going to shut my mouth and take it for the team here so that our sales reps hit their numbers more often. Our company is more profitable. I have a job for longer. Giving them the information, giving your agile teams and your project teams the information to make informed decisions. Chef's kiss. Chef's kiss. Because data-driven decisions are awesome in IT, but data-driven decisions across the company are very powerful. John, what have you got to add here, sir?
Okay, unmute would be good. Do we, like you had analyst, would you develop a profile generic for analyst and then develop another one for financial analyst versus HR analyst versus IT analyst? How is that typical, or I'm trying to get a feel for how specific and how generic that spectrum of personas should be, and how many of them should there be? Yes. And I would think AI could automate a lot of this, which means you could have dozens of them.
Yes, totally. And what you end up doing is you match the need. You'll say, maybe you'll have some really generic ones, and this is where most IT departments start. They're like, okay, you're in marketing, you kind of fit this profile. This is my stereotype of you. This is my archetype view of what marketing people are like. And if you're doing a project that's really broad and affects everyone in the company, that's probably specific enough. What does marketing need? What does finance need? What does facilities need? And you can be very generic with those. But if you're putting in a new CRM, your sales and marketing team are going to be very, very focused on their specific needs. What's in it for me? How is my job going to change? How are you going to make my life easier or harder so that I can be happy or complain to you, one of the two? And so then at that point, you do need to go deeper. And you might start at roles. So you might say, in a marketing generalist role, this is what I need. And if I'm the CMO, I'm really more focused on the reporting aspect of this. And those are great. Those are great ways to bust it up, is by role, because they do it. They have different goals, different challenges, and different needs. But you may find that that's not enough still. if you're putting in a CRM, you've got people in marketing, or you're a really large company. You're putting in a CRM, you've got 20,000 sales reps. Chances are none of those sales reps are like the other. And if they're all literally doing the exact same job, you're gonna need to split them up. You've got the people that are that are technically incompetent and don't realize it. Then you've got the people that are technically incompetent but realize it. What is that? Competent, cognizant? Yeah. Incompetent, incognizant. That's the worst one. You don't want those. But the idea is that you
conscious incompetence.
Yeah, conscious incompetence. That's the best, because then they come to you and they say, "I have no idea how to do this," and then you've got content. You're like, "Oh, here's the training for you, and how can I sit with you and we'll go through the CRM together." And what you end up building is you're building what these people need to hear during that implementation. This is such a powerful tool for organizational change management that it's kind of where I learned to do it. Because a person who is cognizant incompetent, they know that they don't know anything, they need all the training. You're developing the training for those people. Here's the training. But then you've got the people that are competent and they know they're competent, and they're going to skip the training. They're going to skip it immediately. They don't have time for this. And they think they know everything, or they may know everything, and that's fine too. But for them, you're going to give them just an overview. This is what's different. This is what's changing. Or they want to be sat down with because they think they're the rock star of the organization. So they want hand holding. And so that's what the personas give you, and you get to decide how specific you need to be for your specific project. Does that make sense, John?
Yeah. And as usual, I'm thinking about USM, because USM uses profiles to connect the process and the people dimensions, right? So we have manager, coordinator, operator, generic profiles. You can have specific personas based on those profiles for finance, for different projects or whatever. So that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, they all need different things. Okay. Personas, more questions, more discussion? You got more you want to say about it? Otherwise, usually what we do at this point is we will open up for the last 15 minutes to just socialize. Usually I start off with, who needs a job? Is anyone looking for a job? And is anyone looking to hire people? Because those are the two.
At this point, Matt, then I think it's a good idea we pause the restart the recording.
Let's stop it.
So hang on. There we go.